White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast at Intersolar San Diego. Stay classy, San Diego. Whoa, whoa.
All right, this is Sean White. It's been an interesting Intersolar this year. I did 16 podcasts, if you include this one. I started off with Bill Brooks. I finished off with Greg Smith. I had a lot of really cool people in between. I just want to remind people to go check out the solar conference in town, or the Solar and Storage Conference. Let me just kind of tell you about a few of the conferences that I like to go to. So we are here at Intersolar in the United States. And then there's another big Intersolar conference that I usually go to that's in Germany. That's the biggest solar conference in Europe. Perhaps it's the second biggest solar conference in the world. And I go to the biggest one in the world, SNEC, and that is in Shanghai. That happens every year too. And one of my favorite conferences is the ASES conference. And we had a podcast about that with Ella Nielsen. And the ASES conference is going to be in Austin, Texas this year, and that's going to end 10 days before Halloween. It's right before the Formula One races, and that's always a nice, fun conference. And I especially like the ASES conference. I'm on the ASES board of directors now. And speaking of ASES, I'm on the NorCal Solar board of directors, and one thing that we do every year is we have a party, and maybe we could call that our NorCal Solar Conference. That's a party. And that's going to be at the end of Climate Week, which is right around Bill Brooks's birthday. And it's usually going to be something like April 24th, 25th, 26th, something like that. We usually have some good speakers there. One thing that's kind of interesting about NorCal Solar is when NorCal Solar started, half of the solar industry in the country was in Northern California. So that's kind of relevant there. And then for a while, half the solar in the country was in California. And now there's more solar going in Texas than there is in California. And most of the solar in the world these days is going into China by far. And if you go back 20 years, 25 years, something like that, half of the solar in the world was going into Germany. And Germany doesn't have that great of sunlight. It had a great incentive because they have a great German feed-in tariff. And the German feed-in tariff was invented by somebody that I recently had on my podcast. I met him over there at Intersolar Germany last year, and his name is Hans Joseph Fell. We'll put a link to that podcast. And some of the other solar conferences, of course, people know about RE+. Just like Intersolar, I do a National Electrical Code workshop. I do the National Electrical Code workshop with Bill Brooks at Intersolar. We just did one on Tuesday, and we did it on the 2026 NEC. And another conference that we do one together at is the big RE+ conference, biggest one in the United States. That is over in Las Vegas. We liked it better when it was in Anaheim because Las Vegas is crazy. But still, we look forward to going to that conference. I was doing the NEC classes at RE+ Northeast, but I think the numbers just went down, and it has something to do with the market over there in Massachusetts with incentives and SRECs, different credits like that. Then they have another RE+ that's in Northern California. It's really tiny. And you know what? Sometimes the smaller the conference, the more intimate, the more fun, the more meaningful it is. So make sure to go to the small conferences when they're by your place. There's another conference that I've been doing some workshops at, and that one is the OSEA conference. That's the Oregon Solar and Storage Association. I'm also a member of CALSA through NorCal Solar. So isn't that kind of interesting? A solar organization that's a member of another solar organization. Why not? So NorCal Solar is a member of CALSA, and then I go to the CALSA. They have a big event once a year. Not really a conference though, but it's a nice big dinner. One thing that's kind of interesting about that is a lot of times they did the CALSA conference at the Berkeley City Club. And when I was a little kid, it was called the Berkeley Women's City Club. And my grandmother was a member, and they have a nice swimming pool there. And that's where I learned how to swim.
We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's Solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show.
Another conference that I've been doing every year for the last 5 or so years is Tennessee. And so I go down to the Tennessee Valley and teach some National Electrical Code classes down there. And that's actually a really good conference. It's bigger than I would have thought it would have been for being a regional conference. We've had Gil Hugh, who's the CEO and director of SEA, on the podcast, and I recommend going to that conference too. And there are a lot of other conferences. I've been to some different Intersolar conferences and taught classes in Dubai. I had a really good turnout for my demonstration at Intersolar in Dubai, Intersolar Middle East, I think they call it. And I've done a couple in India, 3 different Intersolar conferences in India, 2 in Mumbai, also known as Bombay. Mumbai is the more native term to use for Bombay. And I also did an Intersolar workshop in Bangalore. It's kind of neat going to all these different conferences in different places. One more that I did too, if you call it a solar conference, but it was the COP. And so that's the Conference of Parties. That's where they came up with what a lot of people know, the Paris Agreement, the climate conference. And I went to that one, COP27, over in Egypt. So I saw the pyramids on the way. That was kind of neat. And so one of the things too that's kind of neat about these conferences is you go to all these conferences and you start knowing people. And wherever I go to any of these conferences all over the world, I know people there. And it's kind of neat to have this global community of people that you know, that you could call your friends in all these different places. So I recommend people in this industry to go to these conferences if you can. You'll make lots of connections. You'll have a lot of friends. And one thing leads to another, and you just never know. And one of the things I'd like to do is I do like to travel, but I don't like to travel like a tourist. I like to travel with a purpose. And I've been all around the world, seeing the world through the eyes of somebody working in that place. And it's kind of neat to be able to work and see what the country looks like from the perspective of somebody who's not really a tourist, but from somebody that's going to work, that's meeting with normal people, and also changing the world, making the world a better place, bringing solar energy and storage knowledge around the world. So I recommend that you get one of those jobs where your company, or you could make your own company like I do, and you go to all of these different places and get to know people. And one last conference I want to mention is the NABCEP conference. Now, talking of fun conferences, you get all these NABCEP certified people going for their continuing education, and I'm teaching the PV associate class at the NABCEP conference, and it's usually going to be in some place where there's like a hotel and everybody's staying in the same place, and you have all your meals. And so you spend 3-4 days there together, having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, going to classes, and then there's events afterwards, and there's a party. I was just talking to Sean O'Brien, the president and CEO of NABCEP, and he was saying that there's free alcohol, if you can believe that. What a way to change the world. Make the place greener. So that was my conference podcast. And maybe what we could do is have a conference and a conference about conferences, or a solar conference, a conference about solar conferences. And you would be amazed if you went to all the conferences that I do, how many people that you would know all around the world. So check it out, conference out, and I am signing off in San Diego, rainy San Diego, at the Intersolar Conference. See you next time. Don't forget, go to SolarSEAN, SolarSEAN.com, get yourself NABCEP certified. And you know what? I'll see you at the next conference.